Brianna has a long history online. Despite many controversies, she has continued to find new audiences. I decided to investigate these controversies and lay out the truth, from gamergate to Keffals. It's gotten a pretty positive response, I would say. So I'm curious to see what the deal is about Brianna Wu. Someone you guys probably know of, Queeman. He's been on the streams before. I've met him on Kick or Keep. He made a video about Brianna Wu. Now, Brianna Wu is someone I don't know a lot of details about. I was on some panel show with her at some point with Destiny, and I talked to her there. I think that's where I called the YouTube staff fairies in Minecraft. So there's that. I know she was involved in Gamergate, but I'm not totally up to date on all of the Gamergate lore. Like, Gamergate was like kind of right before I got online, right? Like, I was on the internet, but I didn't really care, right? I didn't really give a fuck about Gamergate. When it was going on, I was watching Annoying Orange, basically, and watching Markiplier and PewDiePie. And then I you know, when I really got into like the community aspect and the controversy aspect of stuff around 2016, I started to know about it, like a little bit, peripheral knowledge, but I don't even understand all of it. Like, there was so much stuff. But this guy named Queeman made a video titled How Brianna Wu Lies to You, and I've been curious to watch it and see what the deal is with it. Brianna Wu has a long history online. Despite many controversies, she has continued to find new audiences. I decided to investigate these controversies and lay out the truth, from Gamergate to Keffals. It's gotten a pretty positive response, I would say. So I'm curious to see what the deal is about Brianna Wu.
Today, I'm going to talk about Gamergate's star victim, Brianna Wu. She's an activist, ex-game developer, and political strategist who lies about so much of her life, I think she may actually be a skinwalker. And in this video, I want to create a permanent record of some of the biggest lies she tries to sweep under the rug.
Permanent record. Permanent record.
Okay, so let's start off with education. Wu lied about this for years. As early as 2009, she was making IGN forum posts claiming to have a degree, seemingly to boost the credibility of her opinion on basically any topic, whether this was psychology or copyright law.
One thing I learned while getting my degree is that psychologically people often decide how they feel about and then rearrange reality to fit the conception they wish to have. Information or opinions that conflict with that chosen reality is stressful and must be marginalized to fit into that preconceived worldview. So that's basically what I'm thinking when I read the above comments. I agree it is a preference. Okay, whatever this gamer is. I mean, I agree that this is a phenomenon I've seen. Is she saying that she has a psychology degree here?
Then in 2011, Wu makes a post seemingly claiming to have a double major in journalism and political science. This claim evolved.
My degree isn't in CS. I come from the newspaper journalism world. I fundamentally believe game journos are pros who try to get it right. As a matter of fact, many of the least qualified people I've seen think a piece of paper assures them a job. Yeah, I feel like everything I learned in college is outside my degree.
Evolves over the years until she tells the Boston Globe that she's a graduate and says on a podcast that she's an investigative journalist.
But I'm going to go finish my college degree and I'm going to become a journalist. And I did. I did investigative journalism for a few years. And then, you know...
This was even on her Wikipedia at one point, but it's since been corrected to better reflect the truth. A truth that only came out during a public spat with ex-homosexual pro-journalist Milo Yiannopoulos, who ran a background check on her. And when he released the results, we all found out that Wu had been completely lying about her degree in investigative journalism, political science, and whatever else she was claiming. Now, you may be thinking, it can't get much more dishonest than faking a degree for years, even lying about it to journalists. However, as...
Okay, I like this video so far, Queeman, but change the music. It does not... It's not even that I dislike the music, it just doesn't really fit the mood, does it? It doesn't really fit the mood.
We go along, her lies only get crazier and more malicious. So that's the story of Brianna Wu's education. Let's talk about her career history. Brianna Wu was given $200,000 by her adoptive parents to start an animation studio, which never released a single project. However, Brianna Wu claims in a resume published online that the studio was able to patent groundbreaking animation techniques, and that her newspaper comic strip was syndicated in both other newspapers and the Laugh Factory magazine. This all seems to be untrue. Brianna Wu does not have a patent for any animation techniques under any variation of her name, and the Laugh Factory seems to have stopped publication in 1996, 5 years before Brianna Wu claims her strip was published. More.
Uh-oh. That's really weird. $200,000. Yeah, where does she... Her parents gave her 200 grand? I want to call my dad right now and be like, Dad, can you give me 200 grand? He'd probably call me gay and hang up. Like, shut the f up. What are you talking about? Actually, that's what my mom would do. My dad would be like, no. My mom would be like, are you high?
More recently, Wu has claimed to be a cybersecurity expert during her run for Congress. On that note, let's hear Brianna talk.
Oh, I forgot she ran for Congress, didn't she? I totally forgot about that.
About herself in her campaign ad.
To survive, I had to believe in myself. I didn't come back on my own. I had a lot of help. Eventually, I became a software engineer and cybersecurity expert. In 2010, I founded my own software development studio right here in Massachusetts. We gave good jobs to people that weren't being given a fair shake.
She's from Massachusetts? Bruh.
Then, in 2014, I found myself in the biggest fight of my life. I was targeted by the
Gamergate.
alt-right in a hate group known as Gamergate.
A hate group known as Gamergate.
They targeted women.
Isn't this with the Jace guy? Deagle Nation? Brianna Wu, Deagle Nation. You know what I'm talking about? The guy who... Yeah, this video, the Deagle Nation War Library. This video is awesome.
Oh, YouTube, this is Jace right here, and this is my car, or my mom's car, that when I was street racing, could not perform on the road, and now the is crash, okay? I can't even kick the windshield because it's made of plastic from shit. And guys, I wasn't even drunk. I was just racing, you know, like normal. I was
street racing in a Prius.
trying to street race in the highway. And look at this bullshit. Look at this shit. Totally useless. I hit and I fucking rolled on the ice. Rolled down here, and now look at this piece of shit. I'm a street racing god.
I'm a street racing god. I'm a street racing god! Jace here. I'm posting this for evidence of attempted murder. I didn't realize it, but the timing was too perfect. I suspect Brianna Wu rigged my mom's Prius to crash and or kill me to silence me from being a hashtag Gamergate vigilante. I challenged Brianna to a street race for hashtag Gamergate, and right after that, she bought a racing motorcycle. Then this happened. This crash happened today while I was driving to Wu's house in order to expose her as a corrupt gamer by racing her on camera. Brianna Wu's super expensive new bike. Suspicious timing much? Not convinced? What about this thinly veiled death threat? She's threatening me. Risk of dying? Yeah, right. This is my motorcycle redline. Every time I ride, I attempt a risk of dying 17 times greater than riding in a car. How badass are you? Yes, I am the one who threatened Brianna on Twitter and elsewhere, but those were red herring threats designed to draw her out of hiding. I'm not just some threatening thug. I don't believe in violence. I believe in justice. My only weapon is truth. I'm armed with the truth of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I will defeat this gaming conspiracy one time and or for all. The context of this is that Brianna Wu, she said the internet ruined my life on TV.
I had no idea your life could change this suddenly. You know, 1 minute I sent a tweet and 24 hours later, I had to leave my house. I thought that I was going to die. One time I looked at Twitter and there were 6 specific death threats for me. And we had to call the police and have them meet us at our home. And they came in and swept our entire house, looking for people there to hurt us. And the police's response to me is to simply stay off my electronic devices.
But what the f are they supposed to do, bro? Some random online was like, I'm gonna hurt you, if that even happened. And the cops show up, there's nothing there. What are they supposed to do? What are they actually supposed to do, bro?
The law generally finds itself in a state.
Where's the... There's a clip here where she shows the car crash video on TV, which is an awesome video. Yeah, this is it. This is it. This is it. Yeah, this is legendary. I don't know if she's talked about this since then, but this is an awesome video.
With guns in the car, driving to my house to kill me. And then moments later, this man himself sent me a very specific, terrifying video.
This is my car, and now the piece of shit is crashed.
Where he claimed he had
This is like put on TV.
crashed his car on the way to my house.
And look at this bullshit. Look at this shit. I'm a street racer god.
Unintelligible. Rah, 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 rah.
And this is all because of it. And Wesley's terrorists.
He is just screaming like an absolute lunatic. It is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen.
Is it the most terrifying thing you've ever seen? I feel like you haven't seen enough terrifying things if that's the most terrifying thing you've ever seen, right? If this is the most terrifying thing you've ever seen, you need to be terrified more, maybe. Not saying anyone should do that. I'm just saying, like, this is It's so silly. Do they alter the audio? Maybe a little bit.
He swears he's gonna deliver justice to me in his own hands. It
Like this is put as like a serious threat on TV.
made me feel so helpless. One of the hardest things about being targeted with this kind of harassment is you constantly worry that people around you are targeting you.
Everybody wants to be internet famous.
It was this cringe ass horrible show. But yeah, there you go. That was an epic moment. I don't know a lot of Brianna Wu lore, but that's one piece I know.
Who were just
It's pretty unhinged though. I mean, it's obviously a joke, right?
asking to be treated fairly by the tech industry. And when I spoke out against them, they targeted me too, in ways that were so criminal, the FBI became involved. They made a Law and Order episode about
Wait, they're still showing this? They're still showing this video, bro.
all of this. They told me
In a
that
campaign
they would
ad?
murder me. They told me that they would murder my husband, my pets. They did everything they could to silence me.
The blatant lie of her being a cybersecurity expert is actually the least interesting part of that clip. Obviously, I checked her LinkedIn and tried to verify this claim. There's no source for it whatsoever. But the more interesting part is how she describes the death threats she received. You see, the videos being shown on screen and the situation being described relate to a series of videos called Deagle Nation, a troll
Oh, he goes into it.
created by comedian Jan Rankowski, who later joined up with $1 Million Extreme, Sam Hyde's comedy group. It consisted of a series of outrageous YouTube sketches in which Jan and his friends portrayed a group of extremist gamers, essentially announcing a jihad on Wu. Now obviously, you'll want to approach this in good faith and assume that Brianna Wu was genuinely threatened by the videos.
So this is one of the 106 death threats that I've gotten this year. I'm gonna play it for you. I'm gonna tell you this is pretty shocking.
This is the Skull's Manifesto. My crew will take care of the women in gaming issue that you've all been hearing about on the gamer sites. We're gonna deal with this vigilante style, basically. I've pretty much unchained the beast within. I'm gonna go bloodthirsty on these fascists and
Even if they seem absurd and obviously joking by modern standards. However, what if I told you that when Brianna Wu says the FBI became involved, what she means is that they determined it was a joke at the time.
No way. FBI's Gamergate file says prosecutors didn't charge men who sent death threats to female video game fans, even when suspects confessed. Federal prosecutors in Massachusetts declined to prosecute without explanation, even though the FBI identified a suspect via a YouTube video. The suspect appears to have claimed the threats were a joke, and then the case was dropped. I mean, they probably were a joke, though, no? In addition, during the investigation, another victim of Gamergate, Blank, was identified and interviewed by the FBI, resident of Boston, MA. So I guess they're saying that this is, Brianna was also receiving death threats via Twitter, email, and YouTube. Grand jury subpoenas were also served to Blank, whatever this is. Due to the use of proxies, no subjects or actionable leads were identified based on the videos posted on YouTube. SA identified Blank videos. Blank was interviewed with the FBI and it became apparent that whatever this is was a joke. Boston USAO was contacted regarding a declined prosecution of the matter. Well, yeah, it probably was a joke. I mean, nothing violent actually happened to her, right? I'm not saying that everybody who makes a violent death threat and is serious about it is necessarily going to do it. But in this context, like he's saying he's the greatest street racer of all time, you know? It just seems very silly.
And not just the FBI, but journalists too. Despite this, Brianna has willed this out at every opportunity as her key example of harassment.
People actually use those diagrams in my house to plan mass shootings of me and my family and my dogs, and would send that to me with things like, we're going to sneak in through here, we're going to execute a crash in this room, and if you're asleep here, we're going to shoot you with this pistol. Like there was some really sick shit that went on back then. And from there, one of those nut jobs started sending me graphic stories every single day explaining how they were going to come through my house and execute me, execute my dogs, execute my husband.
I'm not saying those people should do that if that's happening. Like that's obviously over the line. But it seems to me that from the video she was showing, at least from the biggest video she showed, they're clearly not a serious threat, right?
Husband, like really graphic stories, like talking about how they were gonna get me and cut the skin off my body.
He claimed he had crashed his car on the way to my house is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen, where he swears he's going to deliver justice to me.
Fuck you to Brianna Wu for being a hates gaming. Brianna Wu is a fucking homosexual motherfucker, and I would dispense elite justice on her soul with a single knife wound.
I don't think any reasonable person would take these as credible threats, and the video Wu is referring to is a video where Jace claims that Brianna tampered with his brakes in an assassination attempt. Obviously, I'm assuming that Brianna did not try to assassinate Jace Connors, and as such would know that this video was a joke. There's so much more that could be said.
So I guess the other explanation from her could be like, well, people are crazy enough online. Maybe they were schizophrenic and delusional, right? That's like the devil's advocate position here.
About Deagle Nation. However, that's outside of the scope of this video. So let's
I will dispense elite justice.
move on to another huge lie Brianna told during Gamergate and still repeats to this day.
Oh, YouTube, this is Jace right here, and this is my car, or my mom's car, that when I was street racing, could not perform! Fucking perform on the road, and now this bitch of shit is crashed, okay? I can't even kick the windshield because it's made of bullshit plastic from shit. I wasn't even fucking drunk. I was just racing, you know, like normal. I was trying to street race in the highway. And remember this bullshit? Remember this shit? Totally useless. I hit and I rolled on the ice. Rolled down here, and now look at this piece of shit.
Throughout his battle with cancer and past his death, Totalbiscuit, a gaming YouTuber, was the victim of a smear campaign.
If I tweeted some of the people involved, I would get avalanched with people defending this behavior. And the truth is, it's not a mission priority to the men that have a large audience in this field. Totalbiscuit is someone who's very popular in this realm. He's, as transphobic and sexist and horrible as someone can be. And he has massive.
Now, I don't want to spend a huge amount of time on this, but there was absolutely no evidence for this claim, and plenty to the contrary. Totalbiscuit kicked an attendee out of one of his events.
We condemn the transphobic question asked at the CoxCon panel. If anyone knows the identity of the person, please inform a member of staff.
For asking the question, are traps gay, at a panel.
Are traps gay?
What? I'm not offended by it. I'm not transgender.
Yeah.
But there are people who are and were upset by it.
While that incident took place after Brianna's initial claim, this is something that Brianna has repeated until 2023. When Totalbiscuit died, I made the decision to just say nothing, despite the way he targeted me. I thought I was being decent. What I see clearly now is those of us that said nothing allowed history to whitewash a fairly horrific history of extreme harassment.
What did Totalbiscuit do to Brianna Wu specifically? Like, what did Totalbiscuit do? I don't even know. It's not even transphobic. I mean, saying is traps gay is not. Nobody should give a. But the bigger claim here is just this being made is like Totalbiscuit is transphobic when it seems like all the actions that have been documented, at least in this video, I could be wrong, point to otherwise, right? That's the big thing here.
The only thing I think this could possibly be referring to is when Totalbiscuit said, I am very much done with pretending that Brianna Wu has anything worthwhile to say, and is not a colossal, attention-seeking hypocrite. And the only thing this proves is that Totalbiscuit literally never missed. Regardless, Brianna Wu allegedly used this in a PowerPoint presentation she gave.
Powerful illustration of 180 death threats at Space Cat Gal has received. The threats don't count anymore. It's just him saying that he's done with her. She's
displaying death threats. Now is also probably a good time to introduce Wu's game, Revolution 60. Now there's a whole bunch of lies involved in this game. For one, Brianna claimed to have made music when it was actually royalty-free. But the biggest lie about Revolution 60 is that it's good. See, Brianna is under the delusion that this game is comparable to Mass Effect or Heavy Rain.
This looks like a mobile game. This looks like one of those games you would see in like a mobile game ad. Like you're playing a bad mobile game and then the ad pops up and this is the game they're trying to get you to play.
But Brianna wouldn't let reality get in the way of her constructing insane lies about her game development studio, saying they were on the brink of creating holodeck technology. The only thing stopping them was Brianna's strong moral compass, which led her to running for Congress instead.
You about this? It was so hard for me to make this decision because I have worked 80-hour weeks since 2010 building up my game studio. And we were in the middle of a huge expansion into VR.
80-hour weeks. 80-hour weeks? How many hours are in a week? 168. So she's saying that for half of the hours she could possibly be existing during one calendar week, she was working on a game, and the result was this. This is the result? What? I don't work 80-hour weeks. I consider myself a decently, you know, I like to work a lot. I consider myself a guy who works a decent amount in my job. I have a relatively easy job, but I do work a decent amount. But 80 hours? 80 hours? You got soft hands, brother. I existed 170 hours a week, Brianna. So true. 80 hours is insane. 80 hours not even that crazy. 80 hours is crazy. 16-hour days is crazy.
Middle of a huge expansion into VR and AR. You know, in some ways, Revolution 60 was my line in the dirt telling the industry to take me seriously. Like, look, I can deliver a quality game. Look at this. Because we were working on some of the coolest Mass Effect technology you'll ever see. Like, stuff that really pushes this to the holodeck.
The story of an impoverished start to giant space.
What is the holodeck? It's a fictional device from the television franchise Star Trek, which uses holograms to create a 3D simulation, a realistic 3D simulation. Is that what this is?
That really pushes this to the holodeck.
The story of an impoverished start to giant space cat also seems to be a complete fabrication. According to an article about Brianna Wu's involvement in Gamergate, Brianna and Frank were living out of a house that was given to them for free by Frank's uncle. Obviously, when you add this on top of all the other circumstances of Wu's upbringing, such as her parents being big Republican donors that got her into politics at a young age, and we'll get back to that later, as well as $200,000 we already covered for an animation studio, you gain a different perspective than the one Wu would like to sell you.
Where did that 200 grand go?
You know, there were so many months I sat there and ate red beans and rice, just 3 meals a day for months on end to pay my team. So, you know, my family, who
I remember that tweet,
exceptionally cruel to me, giving them credit for anything.
Anytime somebody makes comments like this or makes like tweets like this, I'm always skeptical because generally people who are actually doing this are not tweeting and proclaiming it to the world, right? There aren't people. It's not like there aren't people who. It's not like there aren't people who do this, like, you know, living on ramen noodles type lifestyle, just like spending all their money to get their business made, you know, living off of shit. Like that does happen, but it seems very unrealistic here.
It's happened, you know, my professional life in the last 10 years. It pisses me off. Hitting on some trauma. I think y'all probably.
Okay, look, I get it. Look,
too.
Now, what Adam friended.
What is the Adam and Sitch, Brianna Wu? What is the comments like on that? Is this the same episode? It looks like it. You got the same outfit and set and everything. I wish I hadn't let Brianna get away with her answer on what's worse, getting debanked or not enough women getting hired in tech. Because her reply was, well, it happens to more women, so that's worse. And I would have asked her, what's worse, 1 million people getting a bruise in their shin or 1 woman getting murdered? Because I think she doesn't have the balls to say the 1 million people is worse. But it's basically what she said. People losing access to fundamental and essential functions of society over political views is far more concerning than not enough women being hired. Male gamers, we like games in general. Brianna Wu, I can only identify with female characters. Then you remember she's the same woman who told Eric July, you like Luke Cage because he is a black guy like you. Big thank
Sort
you.
of 70 IQ cuck who's not going to call that bullshit when it's being fed to him. It needs to be stated that even disregarding all of the experiences, chances at education, and a visit to the same rehab as Tiger Woods, Brianna Wu's political career is likely built off the backs of the connections she made in Washington, also thanks to her parents. Brianna seems to have spent most of her youth rubber banding backwards and forwards between Washington and Mississippi, including partying with Chelsea Manning pre-transition.
Chelsea doesn't mind me talking about this, but we were living in DC at the same time and hitting the same clubs. This is before she transitioned, and yeah, we knew each other a bit back then, so.
Sorry, who is Chelsea Manning again? This name sounds familiar. Chelsea Manning is an American activist and whistleblower. She's a former United States Army soldier who was convicted by court-martial in July 2013 of violations of the Espionage Act and other offenses after disclosing to WikiLeaks nearly 750,000 classified or unclassified but sensitive military and diplomatic documents. She was in prison from 2010 to 2017 when her sentence was commuted by President Barack Obama. What did she actually do? What was the point of leaking these? Manning said her first contact with WikiLeaks was in January 2010 when she began to interact with them on IRC and Jabber. She had first noticed them toward the end of November 2009 when they posted 570,000 pager messages from the September 11th attacks. Why did she do it, though? Like, what was the point of leaking this stuff specifically? Items of historic significance of 2 wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, significant activity. Okay, so they were like war documents. What was her specific gripe with the U.S. government, though? Is she basically just a traitor? Why did Chelsea Manning do it? Chelsea Manning shared secrets with WikiLeaks. Now she's telling her own story. In 2010, while working in Iraq, Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning provided hundreds of thousands of military and diplomatic records about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan to WikiLeaks. It was regarded as the largest leak of classified records in U.S. history. To some, Manning is a heroic whistleblower. Others, including the U.S. military, consider her a traitor. Manning says that when she joined the military, she was committed to the Army's mission, but she became disillusioned while serving in Iraq and regards her decision to leak classified documents as a matter of principle. What was bothering me was I had years of training and years of believing in something and then hitting the ground and then seeing it and feeling completely unprepared for how different it was. I wanted that discrepancy to be addressed somehow. The leaked documents included a 2007 video in which the U.S. military crew on board an Army Apache helicopter is shown shooting at Iraqi civilians and a Reuters journalist after allegedly mistaking them for insurgents. Whoa. Damn. Goddamn. Huh. Interesting.
I was a damn mess back then. Chelsea Manning, so yeah.
This is probably a good segue into Brianna's broader involvement in politics, trans activism, and her association with Keffals. Similarly to how she treated Totalbiscuit, Brianna has suggested that well-known journalist Jesse Singal, who has gained prominence for his skeptical perspective on modern trans health.
I've taken enough derangement from Jesse Singal's transphobic fans to get involved with his latest journalistic missteps, but the day is going to come soon where his peers look into his sloppy reporting and cuts ways with him. Quitting Twitter will only delay accountability. I haven't seen anything transphobic from him. The only thing I've seen from him is talking about Keffals lying about the GoFundMe. That's the only thing I've ever seen from him. I haven't seen any transphobia. Does he have a transphobic fan base? Really? A journalist? I kind of highly doubt it.
Healthcare was actually a dishonest reporter and harasser of trans women. Jesse's attempted numerous times to have we substantiate these allegations, even putting money up for offer. However, about a month ago, Brianna dodged reaffirming these claims and instead made new attacks against Jesse, saying that he was a bad reporter with sourcing issues who tried to get her fired.
I've worked with Jesse a lot, actually. I was one of his main contacts during Gamergate. I have my own impression of his skill as a reporter, as someone who's worked with hundreds of reporters over my career. And it's not good, to be honest with you. I have some extreme concerns about the way that he assessed that the Atlantic article on trans children. I think he's a sloppy person. I think he takes a lot of shortcuts, and I think he chooses sources that align with the story he wants to tell. The way Jesse handles sourcing is going to be a major scandal for him.
Did this end up happening, or is this just her blowing smoke? Like, did this end up actually coming out that he was a piece of shit? Does she have any specific claims? I've noticed throughout this video, unless this video is really poorly researched and like lying about Brianna somehow and taking her out of context, I've noticed that for a lot of the claims she makes, there doesn't seem to be great sourcing at all.
I don't know when it's going to be, but if someone ends up wanting to write that story, call me up. I'll point you to a whole bunch of people. You should look into how he sources stuff. But here's the thing. If I go up against Jesse Singal today by myself, it'll be a Twitter shit show for a few days, and his horrible audience will go after me and won't get us.
Horrible audience.
That's not what I'm interested in. And there's a reason Jesse gets his paycheck from Patreon and not the New York Times. So that is my statement by that. It's very reasonable. Again, I say Jesse has tried to get me fired for criticizing him. And his nutjob audience has never, they don't care about this double standard.
Now, what is the double standard? Also, I don't think that being an independent journalist is necessarily worse than working for a publication. There are undoubtedly there are independent journalists who do a good job. There are also shitty independent journalists who get fired from publications for being assholes and misreporting things and getting information wrong. But in the case of this guy, I wish she just explained in a very clear way, in a very, very clear, obvious way, what he did wrong, and she's not doing that here, and I don't know why. She has an investigative journalism degree, and her sources want to remain anonymous, so just trust her, though. True, you're right.
Forgive me for not trusting Brianna Wu's interpretation of what makes a good reporter after she's had many blatant lies published by actual reporters who are paid by legacy media companies. Not just that, but she uses the same tired old Gamergate harassment lines against every enemy she comes into contact with, even pulling it out against Jesse Singal here. Regardless, Jesse laid out his perspective in a Reddit post. It was 2020. I got an email from Rebellion Pack with Brianna Wu's name on it. I thought this was just Wu's own personal pack. She has run for Congress in my home state. I didn't know Cenk Uygur had any association with it. Maybe I was having a bad day or something, but I was annoyed at being on this list, given that Brianna had sent me creepy notes threatening my career if I didn't change my ways with regard to writing about youth gender dysphoria. So I quickly fired off an angry reply asking to be taken off. I figured I was sending it to one of Wu's staffers, as you can see from my use of third person, though I now see the email address was to Wu herself. Wu replied to my email angrily disputing that she'd threatened my career. We went back and forth for a few rounds of a pointless email fight, and that was that. At no point did I ever have any idea that Cenk Uygur had anything to do with this pack, or that he had any power over Brianna Wu. It turns out they worked together on the pack, or confounded it, or some shit. I did not know this and do not care. Years later, Brianna has recast this as me contacting Cenk Uygur to try and get her fired. So in this view, I sent an angry email to Brianna Wu herself, thinking it was one of Wu's staffers, that didn't mention Cenk or mention any desire to get her fired. But what I was really trying to do was get Cenk Uygur to fire her. I just tweeted at Cenk and gave him full permission to share any email he has in his possession where I tried to get Brianna Wu fired. Late addition, forgot to mention that Wu also claims that I interviewed her for an hour for my detransition article and didn't use any of it. I do not remember interviewing her, though it's possible I did. If I interviewed her and I didn't use any of that, it happens a lot in magazine journalism. I interviewed a number of people for that article whose quotes didn't make the cut. I can't answer this one dispositively because I only have a partial archive of my New York Mag email.
This is the biggest thing. Like, you know, I don't know a ton about Jesse Singal, Jesse Signal, whatever you want to call him. Okay, I don't know a ton about him, but from this video, he makes very specific claims. He's like, if I did that, release it right now. Release it right now. And for some reason, she hasn't released it that I've seen. Maybe it'll come up later in this video. But that I've seen, I haven't seen it released. So it's a very perplexing thing, right? When someone makes very specific claims versus someone who makes very vague claims, unless it later comes out that the person making specific claims was lying, and the person who makes vague claims can bring out their own specific claims and tell the truth, it's a big red flag for me personally. It really is. It makes me really doubt if that person is telling the truth.
Brianna just seems to be making up lies about Jesse, or refusing to confront him or present any evidence. But while we're on the top...
Also, is this audience horribly transphobic? Like, he's not even a right-wing dude, is he? I'm not under that impression. He'd probably be a lot more popular if he was right-wing, to be honest with you. But I haven't seen anything like that.
Of her trans activism, it's worth noting her strong support of Keffals. Until the release of the Some Ordinary Gamers video, and shortly after, Brianna was one of Keffals' big...
This is my issue with Ordinary Gamers video and Keffals. Most people understand that if you outlaw abortion, you're going to get back alley abortions to get women killed, but they can't make that same connection to gender-affirming healthcare for minors. His video spends a lot of time critiquing minors getting HRT without a prescription, but doesn't acknowledge the reality that healthcare options are extremely limited for trans people and being dismantled. I mean, regardless of if that's the case or not, which it really isn't in the case of that video. I feel like you haven't even seen it, Brianna, if this is your take. The point isn't just like gender-affirming healthcare without a doctor, or sorry, gender-affirming healthcare is bad, or that like there's too limited options. The case is that specifically the places that these people were getting it from were... There's pictures of hair in the vials. There's lolicon branding on it.
Biggest defenders. This alone should be a damning condemnation.
Why would you ever defend Keffals? She's a pathological liar.
People like Brianna, who saw everything Keffals was doing and supported her full-throatedly, should not be allowed to worm away when the pressure's too high. Keffals made absolutely no secret about her approval of DIY HRT and partnership with apparent bank robber Bob Posting's DIY HRT directory.
The directory was created by an individual known as Bob Posting, or Chloe. Chloe and Clara have a long history of friendship together. Chloe thanked Keffals for her sponsorship and even got brought on stream to promote the site. She would reply to Clara on Twitter, 1,000 minors on HRT. Her association sparked backlash after people began to notice her bizarre fixation on secretly sending HRT.
These people should be in jail, by the way. It should be illegal to go behind the parents' back to give them hormones. It should be completely illegal. It's not up to you. It's not up to you.
To minors. I've unironically helped like a half a dozen minors acquire bathtub estrogen. No one tell them I've held more than one minor order.
And it's fetishistic for these people in specific, like Bob Posting and Keffals. It's a fetish for them. Pink pilling is their fetish. It's that they get kids on hormones. They get off to it.
I don't groom children. I just show dozens of kids every week how to buy bathtub estrogen with cryptocurrency and how to hide it from their parents. What are you talking about?
Something Brianna only gained the good sense to disavow on a stream with Mutahar, Keemstar, and Nick Diorio, where she was pressed for several hours. Brianna would have you believe she's simply showing compassion for an addict by continuing to deflect for Keffals.
This on the show before, but yeah, I've been so.
But the thing with any addict is that everybody knows is like whether or not they're an addict, if they are a shitty person, like their actions have consequences. They need to be called out. Keffals' problem isn't that she's an addict. That's like 5% of it. The major problem is she's a pathological liar, deplatformer. She funds a website and brags about it, or she did fund a website and bragged about the fact that she was sending hormones made in some lab, who knows where, to children with other parents' consent.
Over for 20 years. You know, I think it was 2002 that 2002 or 2003, I went into rehab for poly addiction. I was an alcoholic. I did street drugs. I did Xanax. I did, you know, Ambien. I did anything I can get my hands on, which is how poly addiction works. And, you know, I beat the odds. I've been sober for 20 years. So, yeah, I take a lot of pride in that. So, you know, especially as Keffals was dealing with her own trip through rehab.
So did you kind of see yourself in Keffals a little bit? Is that kind of what's going on? You see like a young gal activist who's
based on this video, maybe what she sees is a pathological liar. And that's why she likes her.
Under a deluge of bullshit from a whole bunch of people, and you're like, oh, snap, it's a smaller version of me.
100%. And, you know,
100%.
I think something I've been willing to do to this point is, you know, kind of defend her in the public eye more and more. And, you know, we have the stream that I think a lot of people really misunderstand Keffals. I genuinely do. Keffals is traumatized from the things that have happened to her in the last few years. She's not faking that, okay?
But she faked what happened, so I don't give a She faked what happened. She lied about what happened. She lied about the swatting.
Okay.
But it's hard to believe
Hold
that.
on. I want to finish my thought. And
oh, God.
It causes her to make decisions that a lot of people around her like are encouraging her to make different decisions, okay? And I'm going to be honest, I see a lot of myself in Keffals.
He potentially stole a lot of money. Come on. He potentially stole a lot of money.
Please.
When I think I was 22, I found myself in rehab in the exact same way Keffals did. Poly addiction. I was a mess. And I think all the time, like, what if for that period of my life, like social media had been around or I had been a YouTube star? Holy crap.
But I don't particularly care. Like, it's not just that she's a YouTube star who happened to have this. The reason she got famous is because she ran a movement that was a complete fraud. She said she needed money for legal action against the police. $100,000 she raised. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Where's the money?
I'm not justifying everything that she's done. I'm saying it is context. She's not lying about being like traumatized by what happened with the police showing up to her house. That really hurt her.
No, but she is lying about the money. And that's a really big deal.
And she did lie about the cops. She lied.
We can take a look at her tweets at the time. Brianna says, Keffals, I donated to your fund and I give you permission to spend all the money on. So not only did Brianna not care about the allegations of scamming, but she was also essentially enabling Keffals in public.
I mean, she could say this was a joke, but Keffals literally does, right? So, you know.
However, that's not the only way Brianna supported or defended Keffals, with her emphatically tweeting, I don't feel scammed, in response to the ongoing discussion about Keffals' mismanagement of the $100,000 at the time. Wu was also a huge cheerleader of Destiny's Twitch ban, despite later doing Keffals.
This is the blowhard going after Keffals with a bunch of Gamergate nonsense. We've seen this movie before. A bunch of incels get together and Reddit detective their way through a woman's life, misconstruing facts to fit a narrative, literally putting the victim on trial. I'm sorry Keffals is having to deal with a jackass who's been warped by lonely men on the internet praising every shit he thought he's had. He's turned into something truly terrible and can't see it. Oh well, his YouTube channel's going to get banned any day now. Jesus, she cheers on deplatforming too. Why is Destiny cool with this person? She's a scum.
A massive favor in the form of setting up a meeting with Vosh and Destiny to bury the hatchet because it's an election year. Now, despite what I see as a sickening display of knee-bending of Destiny here, I will give him credit. He's kept his distance from these losers in public, and I'll probably just defer to his most recent statements on Anna Kasparian.
Did you follow the Keffals stuff at all?
Yeah, I forgot to reiterate how little credit any of these people deserve for calling Keffals out. I hated it. My biggest pet peeve in the world is people collecting credit on both sides of an issue. Vosh used to do this all the time. So you get to side with somebody and virtue signal hard to your audience and collect all the virtue from that. And then once it becomes like advantageous to do so, later on you can correct the record and then you get more virtue points for that. And it's like, wait, there was plenty of good evidence back at the time. So one man even wrote a manifesto on it for why Keffals shouldn't have been trusted, and none of them.
We're like Brianna Wu lad. I wonder who he's specifically mad about at this point. I assume it's like the Young Turks, I assume, is one of them. Any journalist. Maybe Brianna was even included in this, right?
Gave a then, and now they're all getting credit for coming onto the story, what, like 2 years late? Correct.
He got mad at Mutahar for no reason. He's just mad they didn't upload the Keffals expose himself. Well, I think it's kind of dumb to be mad at Mutahar, but in fairness, like, Destiny, it's understandable he's pissed off because he almost had his whole career ruined by this person. He had a large source of income, like, what, 200, 300 grand a year taken away by Keffals. And, you know, there was a very limited amount of people reporting on it. So it makes sense for him to be pissed off. She disavowed Keffals after a call with Muta came into Oreo. Oh, finally. But she just defended Keffals up until that point. Yeah, that's a good showing.
And when it comes to Vosh, despite Brianna's strong anti-Lolly stance, she's essentially excused Vosh's actions and run defense for him. On the top,
I'm strongly against Lolly. I think we need to not normalize that shit, but also for looking at mistakes people make in proportion to their impact in the wider context of their work. What is the impact and wider context of Vosh? What good has he actually done for the world? He's like a politically ineffective addict who makes shitty videos and refuses to grow his audience because he's scared of confronting other people's positions.
Topic of Keffals, Brianna expressed huge support for the Drop Kiwifarms campaign, believing herself to be one of their many victims. One small problem is that during the previously mentioned stream with Mutahar, Wu was seemingly completely unaware of the forum's rules or activities.
Like, I think that, you know, if you want to call someone the T word or some slurs online, tough shit. That's a free speech issue. You know, if you're repeatedly telling someone in graphic terms how you are going to them, I actually think there should be some law enforcement out there that should look at that, see if there's a criminal case and pursue it. I mean,
I would agree with that basic take. I don't think it's wrong to look into that.
If you introduced consequences into the equation for the most extreme cases, I think that would do a lot of good here. So, you know, it's really frustrating that activists are put in this place of like trying to shut down a website because the FBI can't be bothered to hire 100 agents to do this, right?
The FBI should shut down Kiwifarms for what? You realize if Kiwifarms was doing something illegal, the government would just shut it down, right? Like, they'd have the power to do that. Hiring 100 agents is expensive. The FBI spends a lot of money every year on shit. Do you really think a website that's doing nothing, that's doing something extremely illegal is not going to be shut down by the FBI if it's a top priority? I mean, there was so much public pressure around this, and it's still not shut down. The feds have yet to shut down Kiwifarms in any way. If there's illegal stuff going on there that the FBI has an interest in, whatever, shut it down. But until that point, like, there's nothing illegal going on that site, to my knowledge.
Mm-hmm. I think, but I think like at the core of it, one of the big concerns, again, I'll reiterate, is like Kiwifarms. Look, I don't agree with whatever.
Apparently she walked back the Lolly thing, even though at the time she was like, I don't like Lolly, but he's politically effective, so we should ignore it. To be crystal clear, I'm not defending any of this shit. Lolly is degenerate, full stop. I've turned off many Vosh streams where he talks about weird sex stuff. I wish he'd stick to politics. 3, Jesus, okay, I'm reading 2 weeks of DMs now. Actually, this is some insane, disturbing shit. I withdraw my earlier comments. I need to read a lot more. So, like, at the very best interpretation of this, Brianna Wu is wholly uninformed on everything she talks about and has bad takes. At the worst interpretation, she will just defend people endlessly until she gets backlash, and then she'll finally walk it back, right?
What they're doing over there, condemned, obviously. Null, he has a situation in place, and Null's not a perfect individual, but it's a website that has far more rules about that extreme end that we're talking about, right? The extreme end of threats.
Sure.
The whole don't touch the cow mentality, so to speak, whatever happens over there. But there are websites like Website Zero, for instance, where Vile was operating, right? Where
Brianna hasn't changed much from her Gamergate days. She's completely middle manager brained.
Vile was putting
Thanks
out
for the gift of membership,
Vile who
Styologist.
actually commits illegal actions like using federal agents. That should be the website targeted. And it's not as if the FBI can't do anything. They literally arrested a couple of their operators.
Regardless of what you think of Kiwifarms, it is a US legal site. Cloudflare had been referred to as the emergency services of the internet, providing the vast majority of sites with protection against illegal DDoS attacks. The idea that Brianna would sign on to a completely unjustified attack on the fundamental principles of a free and open internet, not due to any informed or educated opinion on the matter, but due to a personal spite against the website, is honestly reprehensible. This is yet another example of the same behavior she showed in Gamergate, the same behavior she showed towards Destiny's ban. There's no honest reflection on what's an acceptable tactic or how to take accountability. She simply changes team when it benefits her and expects you all to go along with it. And if that wasn't crazy enough, Brianna still seems to lean on the $1 Million Extreme skit to justify her attacks on Kiwifarms.
Is that real?
Regardless,
No way.
looking more broadly at Brianna's trans activism, many
Well,
will
I guess she did more recently in the campaign.
know she's tried to take a stand against the excesses of online and trans activism. This extends to her private conversations, as a group chat of problematic transsexuals was leaked by leftist streamer President Sunday, where she expressed frustrations at the difficulty she faces due to these freaks, and referred to ex-TYT journalist Benny as a transvestite. She would later grovel, saying she doesn't engage in that toxicity anymore, only for some more group chat logs to be leaked months later, in which she was doing the same thing.
This is super female-coded behavior. Wow. He called trans women men. I gave some polite pushback on Twitter. He acted like a girl and kept screaming. When she is in private, she's willing to be transphobic to other trans people. That's crazy.
With the same people.
That's crazy.
Except this time, in typical Brianna Wu fashion, she decided to spurg out, DM the person she was shit-talking, and
I don't want to get dragged into whatever bullshit you're in with this. We've been friendly with each other for a long time. Don't call trans women men and we're cool. But start some public shit with me and we're going to get into some gangster shit. Some gangster shit? I have no interest in a fight, but you decide where it goes from here. Gangster shit? This is Internet Tough Guy in chat. This is you, bro. I think this is actually your DMs, bro.
start threatening them too. So Brianna is more than happy to throw other trans people under the bus if they don't meet her standards for optics. She doesn't exactly keep herself clean.
I would say this. I think it is... I think you should not talk to minors in a way that implies anything sexual. I do have to say, so this is one of my issues with Mudahar's video, that if you spend any time in the trans
this drawing is awesome
community, it's just an irreverent place. It just is. It's a really incredibly dark sense of humor. We had a friend the other day that was thinking about committing suicide, and we were joking with her because she transitioned that we would like tell people that she was non-binary if she committed suicide.
But that's not even like what the Mudahar video is not about jokes. It's about like an uncomfortable relationship that this community, Keffals community, had with minors. Like it's not calling out people for jokes. I think jokes are hilarious. I have friends who make jokes and I'm like, whatever, that's funny, you know, because I know they're not a. But in this case, like the joke is about a reality. The joke of haha, we're pink pilling minors, ha ha ha. People say we're grooming minors. No, we're not. We're just sending, you know, hormones behind their parents' back to them and teaching them how to buy it with crypto. Like that's. The joke is the truth. The joke is real.
Which is a terrible thing to say, but it's just this like dark humor that pervades the trans community. It's like people that have been to war, right? Like there's
I'm in the commentary community. Dark humor is all throughout it. I get
100%. So I think like one of the things that was ironic watching Mudahar's videos, he's taking all of these comments so seriously, and I'm just like,
but it's like it's in a greater context of like these people being pieces of shit. It's not just comments so seriously. It's not just jokes. If it was just jokes, it would be whatever. It's jokes in combination with a lying, scamming fraud of an activist. What the is wrong with you? Did you even see the video?
I hear what you're saying. Ideally, you should not talk to minors like that, but this just is the community.
Thanks for the dono fact.
Like, I'm 46 and I still talk, I talk like this.
Thanks to some leaks of DMs between Brianna Wu and Jesse Gender, we know that Brianna has very radical beliefs in private.
This is what you don't get. I agree with your goal, all of it. What I don't do is sell the radical part. We have to go in stages, just like gay people did with gay marriage. I'm playing a different game because I'm in a different field. If you want to talk about that privately sometime, I'll be happy to. I push legislators on the stuff every week.
But we'll only
is it in regards to Keffals stuff?
Express moderate ones in public. This means that, despite agreeing with many of the excesses of trans activism, Brianna is simply throwing them under the bus in furtherance of her own political career. Further, despite Brianna claiming that she avoids lawsuits, she's been dragged into numerous public battles with previously mentioned President Sunday, going so far as to float the idea of getting him banned from social media platforms.
I think we agree probably that like Discord stepping in or YouTube stepping in and like parting ways with the creator, I think this gets used way too often. But at the same time, it's not like the community has a really good mechanism to like get rid of bad actors.
When there's a bad actor, you just criticize them. If they're lying, you criticize them and they get called out. Why is he a bad actor? Because he exposed your shitty DMs.
Right, like someone who, like Sunday, who I think is a bad actor. I mean, you can go on there and confront him, and that's good. But, I mean, how does a community, like the streaming community, like police itself? It's really, really...
You criticize people. You criticize them, and if they're they lose their audience if they're liars, generally. I mean, there are people like Hassan who are, you know, pathological and they have audiences who support them doing that, but I don't think Hassan should be banned. Why do you need to ban them? If you're right, like, the truth will speak for itself. You're just advocating for banning someone because they shit on you.
Really hard when everything gets turned into content.
And then threatening a defamation lawsuit when he characterized this as calling for his ban. So just to wrap up here, you should not allow people like Wu to placate you with empty apologies and messages of bridge building. There's no bridge to be built with someone who has a long history of reprehensible behavior which they have never accounted or even really stopped engaging in. The US election is not the be-all and end-all. It's not a tool that you can use to deflect from any valid criticism of you and your friends. And Wu's impact on it will not even be felt, let alone remembered. Trump being on the ballot is not a good reason for Brianna Wu to escape the fact she watched and supported every terrible action Keffals took.
Good video. That was good. That was a good video from what I've seen. Interesting. We give Queeman a call. He said he was hashtag down. So it's an election year, guys. True. Yo, what's up?
Yo, how's it going? Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, doing good. Good video. It was interesting. I didn't really know a lot about the Brianna Wu lore because I wasn't like really around for Gamergate. Were you, or what's the deal?
Well, I mean, kind of. I mean, it was. I think I'm a few years older than you, so I was probably slightly more engaged with that stuff. But I mean, still, I wasn't like.
How old are you?
Posting or 25. So.
Okay, yeah, you are. Okay, yeah. I know what was happening, but I was just like I was watching Captain Sparkles at the time. I wasn't really.
Yeah. I think exactly. If you weren't getting into like, I think I heard you say like if you weren't quite into the controversy like shit.
Not at all.
At that point, no.
Yeah, really interesting. The Deagle Nation stuff. It's funny you brought that up because that's like that's the only thing I've ever known about Brianna Wu until this point, basically.
Yeah. Have you seen the Null coverage of that? The Matty stuff.
Did you do a Deagle Nation?
Yeah, there's like a 2-hour video on YouTube. It's super funny. There's like loads of stuff in there that's basically completely scrubbed from the internet because it all got reported down and shit. And so like the clip of him with the knife where he's saying he's going to deliver elite justice.
Yeah,
that's literally screen recorded from Noel's coverage because he has it as like a file in VLC Media Player. And I can't find it anywhere else online. So like a lot of this shit is like just like totally buried.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I mean, it does seem from your video that Brianna, because I kind of like. I didn't know much about her. I kind of was just like, she seems kind of dumb, but I don't really know anything outside of that. I did have a panel once with her, but
I saw your panel with her.
She does follow me on Twitter. I think she watches the Turkey Tom channel. And at one point she messaged me just randomly. I didn't even know what the it was about. She said, dude, I don't know who the this is. Do you have strangers that get obsessed with you? And I just sent a question mark and I was like, I mean, everyone does. What's up? And then she sent... I had to reply to Josh at one point with a laughing emoji saying karma, something related to Keffals. And she was like, oh, are you talking about Clara? And I was like, Keffals, yes. And she was like, gotcha. And that was my only interaction. But she seems like she doesn't take internet hate very well. I'm very confused about this whole Jesse Singal thing, whatever the you want to call him, because
she's meant to be going on his show soon, apparently,
really?
when she's recovered from her surgery. Yeah, so I mean, we may get a confrontation, but yeah, like basically every time it's come up, it's the same with the TB stuff, actually, the Totalbiscuit stuff. Every time she tweets about it, she'll get replies being like, yo, can you post the evidence? Can we see the evidence? And she'll just be like, listen, I'm not gonna be the one to do it, or you just don't understand the trauma I've got. Shit like that. But never a receipt.
You made a public claim. Like that's the biggest thing I noticed. Like all of her claims she made, like if it wasn't specific, it was very, very vague, and if it was specific, it was like clearly.
Yeah.
Someone in chat says a great thing to keep in mind about Brianna Wu is that during Gamergate she fake harassed herself on Steam forums to generate engagement. Is that true?
No, that's not quite true. So basically, it's sort of like that story gets told in a few different ways. Basically, what happened was she put up a thread on her Revolution 60 Steam community Greenlight forum page for like the campaign to get it onto Steam. Mm-hmm. She put up a thread on there that was like, Gamergaters, do your worst. Direct all your harassment here in this thread. And she says that, I tried to contain it to one thread. To me, it reads like she's essentially like soliciting harassment that she can then use to go at people afterwards. Obviously, I can't prove her intention there. That's how it comes off to me. But that story gets told as either she forgot to log into her alt and posted a hate thread about herself, or she posted a fake hate thread. So it gets sort of spun, and she's able to kind of disregard it entirely. When really what was happening was she was like, "Hey guys, come harass me. Oh, now I get to screen cap all of you and run with it."
It's such a with any of these people who see themselves as like a warrior of the internet, the head of a movement, right? I always kind of just like, I get a weird vibe from them.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, the same applies to this Grums guy that I see on Twitter right now. I don't know a ton about him, but he just seems very silly. And the same applies to Brianna when she makes a lot of these claims, especially the stuff about like working 80-hour weeks. And then like you see the game she made. I didn't even know she was a game developer. And you see that, I mean, I was telling Chad about this. I was like, it looks like, you know, when you're playing a shitty mobile game, it looks like the ad for another shitty mobile game within the game that you have to like get through. Like it looks.
It doesn't
so
even look
bad.
real. It's like a 90s movie video game. It's
Yeah.
just shapes and kind of sci-fi looking shit.
Yeah. So, and the one of the more disturbing things about that was like she, in those private DMs, she was like, I actually agree seemingly with, I don't know the context of it, but I agree with like the broader parts of the trans community that are even criticized, but I can't say it because I'm playing the game, right? And then meanwhile, she like goes on streams and like she doesn't seem to know much about the situation, and then she finally backs down. She's like, well, I guess Keffals is wrong, right? But then privately, I don't know what the context of that DM is, but if it is, related to Keffals stuff, it seems like she actually agrees with that, and she's just like putting on a public face, right?
Oh, is that the one about being more radical in private?
Mm-hmm.
That you mean? That's to Jesse Gender, and it was about, oh god, they were having a disagreement over non-binary stuff because in public, Brianna Wu, I don't even read. I honestly don't know what her game is with this. She says that she wants to just sort of cut off all the freak non-binary people who are like otherkins and shit to try and save the rest of the trans community. That's like sort of what she says in public, but also she says the opposite and says, oh, non-binary people deserve humanity and healthcare and all this stuff. And then in private, she's both saying, oh, I hate this transvestite. And then to other people, she's saying, no, even if you don't pass, you deserve good treatment still. It's like, so it's incoherent to me. I don't know what her actual position is. I think it literally just changes based on who she's talking to and what's going to benefit her. But
yeah, maybe she doesn't even know what she believes, honestly. Maybe that's it. How does she make money? Like, what does she do to make money? Does anyone, do you know this? Like, does anyone know?
Well, so her husband's a patent agent for a biotech company, I think, or microbiology, biotech, one of the two. So he's like pretty loaded and always has been. I don't know what she really does day to day. She just got kicked off of, she literally just the other day lost her job with this, do you know this trans movie called Envy and Desire, or Envy/Desire?
I'm unfamiliar with this. Let me look this up.
Okay,
Envy
yeah, it's
and
a
Desire.
Envy/Desire, yeah. It's made by like some Twitter trans woman.
This looks amazing.
Yeah.
So far.
So they're making a sequel to that, and Brianna Wu was brought into the like producer crew, and then they just cut ties with her the other day because she was unable to meet the goals of the project. So I guess she couldn't get the funding and connections that she claimed to when she got signed on. I
thought she worked 80-hour weeks. What the?
Well, that was on a game development studio. You see, when she was eating, red beans and rice.
Red beans? Okay, that's the most weird thing. Who the has ever said they eat red beans and rice when they're poor?
Well, okay, so that was a big like trendy poor people diet on Reddit. Like there would be Reddit posts being like, "Oh, if you're broke, you can get everything you need from just eating this, like all the time, every day." And people are like, "Oh wow, I'm gonna do it." Like the super minimalist lifestyle, soy shit. Also in that David Whitmer article, the Inc. one, she also says that she subsists entirely off of Soylent, which is not major, not hugely relevant, but quite funny.
She's just like Destiny, bro. She's just like Destiny.
Yeah, just like Destiny.
Does Destiny know any of this stuff or no?
I think he has a cursory knowledge of it, but just doesn't care. Brianna Wu's out of... He started talking to Brianna Wu basically because of Progressive Victory. But she got kicked out of Progressive Victory like 5 months ago.
Why is that?
So I don't even know that he has anything to do with Wu. So the reason that was given in public was she has a very type A domineering personality. I've heard whispers of just very, very intense situations where she struggled to get along with others is what basically is
Gotcha. Interesting. I thought one of the more interesting things is she seems to hate trans people she seems to like trans people so much to defend them, but then in those private messages she's like being catty, like this isn't even a real trans person, right? Like that was pretty funny.
She does that all the time. That was about a FTM trans person, so female to male.
Gotcha.
And they were like, she was sitting there in that group chat saying, "Oh, they're acting like such a little bitch, they're acting like such a little girl, screaming like a little girl, like constantly. Like, what are you saying here? What is this other than just
right
the transphobic vitriol you would criticize someone else for?"
Now, for this Jesse guy, he's not like a right-wing dude, right? Why would he have like a transphobic audience? Where is this claim coming from?
So basically, he's been around a long time. He actually covered some Gamergate stuff and was like defensive of like Brianna Wu and her sort of crowd. But as the years went on, he sort of got a lot of prominence for this takedown piece he did. There was a big like article about youth trans healthcare published by The Atlantic. Yeah. And Jesse Singal did like a big analysis of it where he's like, oh, I think, you know, these studies are bad and all this shit. And so he got a lot of notoriety off of doing that. So he sort of got like, his audience is majority sort of like trans critical, gender critical, you know, not on board with the excesses of the modern trans activism.
But are they like if she tweets about Jesse, are they going to go and be like, you know, T-slur or whatever this, like, and even if they did do that, like, is that a valid reason to not expose this guy who you say is like an evil journalist? Like,
no, I think it's just cope, to be honest. I see his fans go into her replies and be like, yo, can you post that proof? You're like deranged, but never being like super vitriolic. Also, the interesting thing about that, I didn't put this in my video because you can't really, there's not really a substantive point to make here. But when she first started talking shit on Jesse Singal, it was like right after this other trans Twitter account had put up this thread saying that he was like harassing, or like it was like a chaser that was like harassing trans women behind the scenes. So she puts up like this vague tweet criticizing him like the day after or the night that tweet goes up. And so everyone takes it initially as her being like, oh yeah, he is a weird chaser who's like harassing trans women. And then she's like, no, I just mean it's sloppy reporting. But obviously she clarified it relatively quickly, so you can't really say much about it, but it's just like, it's super opportunistic to just pile on when there's like claims of essentially like sexual harassment going on, and you're just like, oh well, I've got these vague claims of sloppy reporting. It's like, okay.
She definitely seems like a very opportunistic person, for sure, no doubt. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you wanted me to, or you wanted to go over from your video, or stuff you want to comment on? I know you did a debate with Brianna. I haven't seen that yet. How did that go?
The debate went great. Honestly, yeah, if you get a chance to watch the debate, I highly recommend it. She muted me, I think, 30+ times throughout the course of the debate. It's very funny, I think. Personally.
Was she able to like defend almost anything? No. Okay, interesting. What did she say about the Jace thing? What was her response there? Just curious.
She was just sort of like, you'll see pretty quickly, but basically every response is, I have a lot of trauma. I don't remember very well. Oh, you know, I could be wrong, but you know, I'd never looked into it. So it just seems like, well, why did you say these things in the first place, if this is the case?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Cheers for having me on. I'll catch you later.
Bye-bye. Okay. That was good. Did a little Brianna Wu content. The debate was so annoying to watch. It is a really long, it's long as 2 hours. I kind of just want to look up Control F for Jace. Here we go.
It was Tice. They were part of the same group. It was Tice, Eli, and Jace. Yeah.
Well, hold on. So are we expecting? So sorry, sweep time. So we're expecting Brianna to like specifically research each individual schizo who's going after her and try to like chart them out.
Not at all. I'm making it clear that this was all associated. They did make it clear they were associated in their videos. They called themselves Deagle Nation and were doing Operation Woopocalypse. So they did associate themselves in their videos. It's not.
Okay, I would like to interject at least part of my perspective, because I actually consider myself a fan of Sam Hyde, at least in reference to some of his work. And yet, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Sam Hyde do PEDs in order to get in shape enough in order to go box? Didn't he absolutely f up his opponent in that boxing ring? Wouldn't it probably be something that Sam Hyde would likely do, is show up in Los Angeles in order to hang out at places that Hassan Piker hangs out at? Wouldn't it absolutely be the kind of shit that he would do, where he would pretend to be schizo and like?
Wait, honestly, so are you arguing it's a credible death threat? Are you saying it's a credible death threat? You think that was a credible death threat that Sam Hyde made? Is that your argument?
No, so Brianna Wu has nothing to say. She just sits there.
See, I feel like we're at post-irony.
Okay,
here.
right,
Like,
okay.
Like
this
we
is just,
sorry,
clearly, I came in being...
Only Plays played Revolution 60, and it's so Kino, it's better than the reruns of Zoids, is it? Revolution 60. I'm curious about this. Oh, there's a complete series they did about it.
That
surprise!
She stole the breastplate.
This game looks so awful.
She has heart in her
oh
hair.
my god.
Girlfriend setting.
Why does it look like that?
You know, if the sky was really that red, it would
I was about to say.
It looks terrible.
What?
Oh my.
There he is!
Frank!
Yes! Frank Wu!
It looks so bad. This game looks like absolute dog shit.
Oh yes! Yes! Yes!
motorcycle! Skia! Brianna, yo, swing down from the the floating box!
Bro, this game came out in 2016 and it still looks this bad, bro. It's not even just like low quality graphics, because that can be done well if it's like stylistically nice to look at. But this is like, this is just trash. Look at this.
There it is! Why is it floating? It's evil. Yes! I'm glad they rendered that part.
Yeah, but not this.
It's very graphically intensive. Press space to repeatedly until... Okay.
Like, the characters don't even fit in with the environment. They look like they're like green screened over it.
I like how all these characters' side profiles are like.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, Brianna Wu seems like kind of a liar, bro. I don't know, unless there's something I'm missing. I'm curious to see that Jesse Singal thing, but good video by Queeman. He did a good job. Haven't really seen one of his full videos before, but that was quite interesting. Quite entertaining, I would say. Quite fire. Quite awesome pilled.